So, hello everyone. How's it going today? Hope everyone's doing well. And on this fine Tuesday evening, we're going to do a little bit more of learning about Unreal Engine. So, get started. I'm going to bring open the first window I need. And of course, have to open up Unreal Engine again. It was only 1 single minute late this time. Got to do a little bit better in the future, but every time I'm about to get started, I always remember one last thing that I forgot to do to prepare for the stream. So it might be easier for me to make a checklist or something so that I can just go through the list, know that I did everything that I need to. But for today, we're continuing where we left off last time. Oh gosh, I think I have a sneeze in me. Hang on, I'll mute. Oh, forgot that I needed to unmute that. Sorry about that. Yeah, sorry, I muted it because from a young age, I've had some old man sneezes. Little 10-year-old me was even sneezing like an old man, just very loud. Definitely not a super young man anymore. Not old. Just turned 30 earlier this year, so definitely a 30-year-old man, but been sneezing like a 50-year-old man since I was 10 for sure. But without further ado, let's get started here. And I keep forgetting another thing I've been wanting to do is put the music on its own channel in the mixer so that I can have that kind of blower in the background while I'm going through with the lesson. But for now, we're just going to cut off the music so we can get started on the lesson. Because I think we were most of the way through nodes. So we're going to continue with functions. And let's pause that music. That mixer open on my screen so I can see that a little better. Oh. Yeah, that was probably a bit louder than I meant for it to be. Sorry if that was blown out. Forgot to lower the mic audio as well. But it's not like anyone's here watching at the moment. Maybe in the future someone will come back. But if you are from the future, sorry for that probably blown out mic audio. Forgot to turn it down to stream levels. Oh, we've got our guest here. She knows. Siren is in the building on the desk, ready to stream as well. Hey, yes, that is the microphone. You gonna get in your bed? You getting in? No? What are you doing? Why are you looking at my drink like that? It's not for you. Sorry. Ooh, girl. Come on. Let's get you over here. Okay. Once she settles down, I'll go ahead and put the camera on her, but nope, that's not your spot. I know the keyboard is very comfortable, but I need to use that. Nope. You got to stay there, babies. You want to hang out here, you can, but you got to stay in your bed. You can't be all over the desk. Just give her a second to settle down. Because you were going to be a big distraction. I already know it. Yes. Hi. Okay. Stay settled. No. Like, what do I do, man? I don't know what to do with you. You just kind of have to decide to sit down on your own, don't you? All right. So, just going to ignore you for now. You'll sit down eventually. So, anyway, we were on nodes, just finished with functions. Oh, she's settling down. Okay. So, in that case, let's go ahead and get the cat cam going. I got the overlay configured a little bit more how I'd like it now. See, we got purple on the overlay. All right. So yeah, delay nodes. Very obviously, just it delays whatever signal's going into the node. The flip-flop node will just go back and forth between two. So if you have, you can have two different functionalities on a single button. You just keep pressing that button. It'll fire off one functionality, and then it fires off the other functionality. Sequence node will go through. Hang on, that's different than timeline. Oh, okay, yeah, sequence node is the same as a flip-flop node. It's just it has more than two, so you can go through however many you want. You can technically do the exact same thing with a sequence node that you can a flip-flop node. But the sequences you can have however many flip-flops you want. It just goes you press a key, it just goes from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6, however many you have there. But you can technically just have it set to 2, and it functionally is the exact same as a flip-flop node. Do once, of course, you press the button, and then pressing it again will not refire the functionality. It just fires off the functionality that one time. Branches, of course, you need to have different conditions depending on where it's going to go to. I think branches, you need a condition set for each branch. On component, what was on component again? Let's just do a refresh of on component because I don't quite remember what that one was doing.
The event begin overlap and the event end overlap. So if we go to our viewport and we can just delete the sphere here and the text renderer here. And if we
okay, so it's just the overlapping.
We can just delete these nodes here. Component begin overlap and on component end overlap.
Yeah, okay, on component. That's why, because it's on component begin overlap, on component end overlap, and then there's a few other on components. He didn't go over on component wake or sleep, but he did go over hit. Begin overlap, obviously some functionality fires when whatever designated actor that can trigger it walks into the area, triggers that functionality, and then same with end overlap, it'll trigger a functionality when they exit that area. And then on component hit, it needs to be set to block all collision because it's just like hitting the outside surface of something. It's not going to allow whatever is going into that area to actually go in it. It can touch the edge, and it can tell when it's touched the edge. Okay, I think that's all he went over in the components. Yeah, component hit, end overlap, and this up here is begin overlap. So you designate the actor. You can designate the component as well, specifically. And then, yeah, just goes into whatever functionality you want. And the for loop, as we found out, was 7 nodes in a trench coat, pretending to be one node, but it just does it for however many sequences. It'll repeat the same functionality for whatever many sequences. And then you can set up other functionalities so that it can sequentially do different types of functionality depending on the sequence. So in the functionality that's being fired on the for loop, you can then specify which sequence it matches in the for loop. So it can do different functionality essentially in the same node. Timelines was just more of like setting up curves for different, kind of like a lerp, but lerps don't have a curvature functionality. So you can either just have it like a straight normal lerp, or it can like kind of curve over whichever
time frame. It's kind of like setting. Is it just called nodes? It's kind of like animating in like After Effects, or in my case, I use DaVinci Resolve for any video editing, but just kind of like animation nodes or pinpoints. I can't remember. I think it's called nodes, but essentially where you're just setting different points for an automation, like moving an object, setting it to like get bigger over time or smaller, whatever. You can essentially do the same thing in timelines. And then functions were just a way to group a bunch of nodes into a single functionality, which is actually what was happening with the for loop. When I opened it up and expanded it, I was originally trying to expand the nodes that were on, or not the nodes, the pins, the output pins. I was trying to expand the pins, thinking there were more pins that were being showed. But when I hit expand, I just kind of lizard brain hit expand because I was like, yeah, that'll expand the pins. But no, it actually expanded all the nodes that were contained in that function. So the for loop in Unreal Engine 5 is essentially just a function of other nodes. And you can do the same thing with whatever combination of nodes that you want. So that's what I've learned so far in the nodes section. So we're going to just get started with macros because we have not gotten there yet.
There's also another way that we can collapse a bunch of nodes together, and that is by creating a macro. Macro are kind of similar to functions, although there are some key differences. But first, let's go over how to create a macro. So if we just go inside our function, we can copy this bit, and we go to our event graph, paste it here, and just hook from here into the new location. And we'll just move on.
Let's restart that. I was just kind of adjusting the volume of his voice there. Start from the beginning.
There's also another way that we can collapse a bunch of nodes together, and that is by creating a macro. Macro are kind of similar to functions, although there are some key differences. But first, let's go over how to create a macro. So if we just go inside our function, we can copy this bit, and we go to our event graph.
Okay. So he was opening up the function that we, one asset editor was open. Oh yeah. Yeah, I would like that to always be the case. If I reopen the project, I would like it to reopen the tabs I had open with that project. Oh, and that's right. I was trying to like make my own custom little teleport function. Just depending on the direction the character was going. I wasn't able to do it. I wasn't able to set it up. I'm sure if I spent a bit more time trying to figure that out, I could, but I was just trying to move on to the next section. And what exactly did he want me to copy again? Was it just the get actor location? And then the, okay. Just the plus right here. All right. So we just said copy that. And we're bringing it into the event graph. Oh, paste that. All right. That's what I needed. All right. We're on track.
Paste it here and just hook from here into the new location. And we'll just move our function. And if I just select all these nodes, I can right click and go collapse to macro. And let's just call this move location macro. If I double click and go.
Okay, so it was off of 1, right? Yeah, it's just the 1 key. All right, so I think this was, yeah, that was the function that I made, the teleport function. In which if I came here and hit expand node, that is what happened last time, which hence my confusion. So we'll just close that out and bring that up here. Okay. Oh, and then he said collapse to a macro. So what's the difference again if I were to, what does that look like compared to a function? Oh, because functions can have like ins and outs, such as macro just an out. That's it. It doesn't have any extra like pins, I'm assuming.
Go inside this move location macro. We can see it's kind of similar.
That camera is all messed up.
Inputs and there's some outputs.
She ain't even
we can just select our macro
in the bed anymore though.
We can add an output, so I can just click here.
Let's go ahead and
turn off cat cam, turn on the other overlay there. Oh, did I set the property for the cat cam keyboard overlay as well? I did. Okay. Cool.
Here.
Okay, so that was
And
move
like
location
I just
macro.
Click select our macro, and we can add an output. So I can just click here, and I can just call this execute, and then I can just hook up this node to here. Inside of my macro, I can also have variable outputs, so I can just hook this return value into here if I wanted to get the result of what.
Okay. All right, so I had a little bit of a brain fart. I need to stop having multiple things pending in my mind that I'm trying to mentally consider. It's a really good way to describe ADHD, is I'll be trying to focus on one thing while there's 2 or 3 other things in the back of my mind that I'm also trying to like mentally process at the same time. And then it really just ends up me not being able to pay good enough attention to any of them. Got to get better at that, which was what was happening here. I had like 2 or 3 other things I was trying to consider at the same time.
And we can add an output, so I can just macro. If I double click and go inside this moving location macro, we can see it's kind of similar to the function. There's some inputs and there's some outputs. If I double click and go inside this moving collapse to macro.
Oh, he collapsed all of that to macro. That's what it was. Okay, so we're gonna undo that macro creation. Just come over here and then collapse to macro. And it was move actor location, I think it was.
And let's just call this move location macro. If I double click and go
Move
inside
location
this
macro.
move location macro, we can see it's kind of similar to the function. There's some inputs and there's some outputs.
Okay. Move location macro. And double click, open that up. All right. Interesting.
We can just select our macro and we can add an output. So I can just click here and I can just call this execute. And then I can just hook up this node to here. Inside of my macro, I can also have variable outputs. So I can just hook this return value into here if I wanted to get the result of whether this was successful. And we can kind of just use macros to collapse a bunch of nodes together that we're working with. I can hook from this location variable to here. And I'm just going to rename this location to travel. And now if I go compile and go to my event graph, when I press the 1 button, I can set my player's location so that he's plus 250 in the z-axis, and I can just do a branch to just check whether this was successful. And if it was, we can print string the word success. So now if I go compile and go play and press 1, it teleports my character up 250 units and it print strings the word successful. So we can kind of use macros and functions to collapse some nodes. So you may be thinking, what's the difference?
Yeah, what is the difference? Okay, let's recreate what he did here though. So we have execute input, right? So he goes through, did he set that manually or is it just already called execute?
Click and go inside this moving location macro. We can see it's kind of similar to the function. There's some inputs and there's some outputs. We can just select our macro and we can add an output. So I can just click here and I can just call this execute. And then I can just hook up this node to here. Inside of my macro, I can also have variable outputs. So I can just hook this return value into here if I wanted to get the result of whether this was successful. And we can kind of just use macros to collapse a bunch of nodes together that we're working with. I can hook from this location variable to here. And I'm just going to rename this location to travel.
Okay.
Interesting. So yeah, there it is already called execute here. So output execute. Well, he tried to name it that, and it didn't name in his video. Like he typed it, then nothing came up. We'll just leave it at then. Okay, and then he said return value. And he also came over here and just added this, just like as an example. Location of travel, return value.
And now if I go compile and go to my event graph, when I press the 1 button, I can set my player's location so that he's plus 250 in the z-axis, and I can just do a branch to just check whether this was successful. And if it was, we can print string the word success. So now if I go compile.
Okay. File, save. Oh, we want to come down here. And we branched. And the condition goes into branch. And true, print string. Okay. So let's shorten this distance here. Alrighty. Compile, save, and just put in a value here. Save that, compile, save, play. Cool. That works. Oh, is that door still opening? Yeah, it is still opening. And that's right. I was able to set it up so that it opens just depending on whichever default rotation it's at currently. I had to paste that in to figure it out, but that was from last stream. It took me a while to figure out how that worked. Because specifically, current door rotation, desired door rotation. And then I could have, if I wanted to, well, that's the third person. So that would have to be on the level blueprint, right? Or is it the door blueprint specifically? Yeah, so if I wanted to, I could set it up to where I had to be in a certain area and press a button as conditions in order for it to actually start that, rather than just going off of being in play, which I can do actually right now if I'd like to do that. And I change to, let's set that. So for example, hit play. Actually, the way it's set up, I don't even need to be near it. I can just press 2 and it does not open. Oh, that's right. I forgot. Because this would need to be in some way, this would in some way need to have like controls hooked up to it, which I don't currently have hooked up. So due to that, can't really do that right now. So I wonder. I could do this. I could add I don't want a static mesh. Box collision. overlap box. We'll call it overlap box. And on component. No, maybe not. I think I'd have to come right here. On component, begin overlap. Okay. Yeah, I don't think that'll work right now because there's no controls set up there. But if I wanted to, I could do on component begin overlap. Let's get that right here. Put it here. I think I would have to create a variable that is actor, an actor variable. Actor. Object reference, maybe. Yeah, I can't quite remember how that would have been done. It's kind of a bummer that I forgot that. The instance editable. I don't want to interrupt this video just to do that. I'm doing it. Screw it. Where were we at? 134. Okay, on component.
The next node I'm
Box. Where is the actor?
So once we made our final game, we can then make them all hidden again. Once something's overlapped this box, if they leave it, then this node will fire. So on component end overlap, I can make this also say hello.
Do I have to actually designate the actor?
Kind of similarly, so if I just scroll down and go on component end overlap, once something's overlapped this box, if they leave it, then this node will fire. So on component end overlap, I can make this also say hello.
I don't think I need to actually specify the actor. I thought I needed to. Okay, maybe not. Okay. Oh, no, I need to go to the viewport, the overlap, specify how big I want that to be. I could probably just make the whole dang thing bigger. Okay. Bring that like there. That's fine. Down here. Sure. Maybe make that a little bit bigger. Let's grab this handle right here, like that. Okay, that's probably fine. So I will hit save, compile, and hopefully it opens once I walk into that little area. Let's try that out. Yep, there we go. Look at that. Yeah, so that's a really good example of how to use the overlap component. I can't remember how I would call an input from it without having some type of like, is it like casting? Is it like cast to controller? Because I'm pretty sure if I was to, how do I set a condition? Is it branch? Yeah, it's branch. Because I'm pretty sure if I were to just like do this, oh, there's universal variables. That's right. Okay. So if I was to set this variable as requested to open, and we'll just go Boolean. It starts. Okay, so it's not private. Okay, so it's going to start off. Yeah, okay, so it starts off as in that's false. Wait, but then I thought. If you requested to open. No. I thought this could be accessed from wherever, but no. I thought that was the point of universal and non-universal. Let's just Google it. Let's hit up the old Google. Unreal Engine 5, how to access variable from a different blueprint. Is the AI going to actually give me some useful stuff here? Accessing a variable from a different blueprint in Unreal 5 can be achieved through several methods, primarily involving obtaining a reference to the target blueprint and then casting directly at or accessing its public variables. Obtain a reference in the blueprint where you want to access the variable, create a variable of the type of the target blueprint, and then you can assign an instance of that target blueprint to this variable. What? Create a variable, the type of the target blueprint. That's what I did. It's right here, requested to open. You can then assign an instance of that target blueprint to this variable, either manually or in the editor. How do I do that part? Assign an instance. Is it instance editable? Is that what it is? Requested. No. Or dynamically in the blueprint logic. Oh, get all actors of class. PP. Third person character. Okay. The actor class. Oh, I probably have to do this here. Go into there. Go into there. Oh no, that's No, that's not how that's going to work. Let's just take a look at an actual thread here. Whoa, bro. You have two choices, blueprint comms or blueprint interfaces. Basically make the variable, i.e. click the eye next to it so that it's open. Oh, is it not open? Oh, it's open. Click the eye next to it, but there's a thread of discussion on it. Blueprint interface. No document. This document does not exist. 2014. Also 2014. Okay, that's not what I was looking for. Correct way to access another blueprints variable. Am I doing it in the wrong spot? No, the requested to open should be here. No, that's not right. Let's see. Nope, that's not what I meant to do. Interface. Hmm. Hmm. So, okay, so breaking down the logic, what I want to happen is that when it's inside the overlap, it's going to get actor of the class, VP third person, but I only want this to turn true. Oh, here, let's get maybe set. I probably don't need the branch, do I? I go and then set it to request to open and play. But I only want that to happen if the actor presses E. Oh, now she's back. Okay. Cat cam has returned. Let's get you a little bit better of a frame. That's probably fine. Hey, what's up, girl? But I only want that to happen if I press E. And that's the part that I am a little bit confused about. Here, let's do a little. Let's do a little screenshot here. Bring open the. I'm just going to have to Gemini it, unfortunately. I really don't know. Okay. Screenshots. Pictures, screenshots. Okay. Gemini has to say about it. Let's put that right there. Yeah, how can I make sure the casted actor class under all actor classes only setting the following condition requested to open if an input like the 1 key is pressed? I want to change your logic. Instead of triggering the action on overlap, you should use the overlap event to simply remember if the player is currently inside the trigger area, the action will then be fired by the key press, which then checks if the player is in that area. This method is much more reliable and what you typically use for interactions like opening doors or picking up items. The problem with your current setup, your current blueprint graph sets requested to open as true in the instant the overlap begins. It doesn't wait for any input. Although using the get all actors of class is very inefficient. The on component begin overlap event already tells you exactly which actor just overlapped. You don't need to search the entire level for it. Gotcha. Okay. So I don't want to do that. The correct approach, create a player is overlapping variable. First, in your door blueprint, create a new Boolean variable. Let's name it BP player is in box. Okay. Try that then. Player is in box. Is in box. Okay. The variable will keep track of whether the player is currently inside the trigger box. It should also be false by default. It is false by default. And players in box is false by default. Okay. Then I can also come up to the default overlap box and create a on component end overlap. I'll just real quick bring that up here and set
as false when it ends the overlap. Okay. Okay, on component begin overlap. When the actor enters the box, we check if it's the player. If it is, we set BP. Player is in box true on component end overlap. Yeah, when the actor leaves. Okay. Finally, we'll add the input logic. Okay, the part of the code will only execute if the BP is player and box variable is true. Enable input for the door actor to listen for key presses. Okay. Must enable input on it. The easiest way to do that is to add this to event begin play. What? Why would I do it on begin play? Why would I not just do it after this? Would I not just branch and event key to that doesn't really make sense. I don't know if this is accurate. This is why I don't really like using Gemini for stuff like this, because it'll just confidently give me the wrong answer. And I don't know enough to know if it's the wrong answer or not. But I'm also hard pressed because when I try to find the answer I'm looking for, I stumble upon threads from 2014. You know?
Hello, and welcome to the video for How Do I Do Blueprint to Blueprint Communication. For our example, this will be fairly generic. We are just simply going to update the damage variable on our user interface, and then we need to get a hold of our player health, and then we need to change it. Now our user interface is created inside of our third person character when we create the third person begin play. When we begin play, we create our user interface, we create a variable called UI widget, and then we add our user interface widget to the viewport. So now we need to be able to get a hold of this variable from our bad pickup. So how do we do that? Well, let's get our player character. Now our player character is not generic. Our player character is called TPP C casting child parent. So we need to take our player character, cast it to our exact type of object. Once we have this as the object, we can then get our UI widget. This will now get us a reference to our UI widget. Now that we have our UI widget, we need to actually do something. Well, we need to get the value of the player health.
Okay. But Gemini saying that casting is inefficient, I don't think was incorrect, because that was also shown in this thread here. Casting is inefficient. Or maybe it was the frickin' 2014 thread. Oh, shoot. Where'd that go? It's the 2014 thread? Yeah, that is. Okay. Let's get back up here. Okay, so Seems like no, I don't think we need to do that. Maybe I need to set it from the third person character. Oh, okay. Then the input would have, well, that has to be on the player character. That would feel crazy to have every type of condition on the player character that would be needed for whichever, door, anything, that feels inefficient. Um, because I'm sure uh, I could still do it like this, where did that go? Get player. Hmm. 'Cause I'm sure if it could technically be done like this, I think. Um, no, it was cast to. Okay. So cast to BP door. What is object? As BP door. File save. Maybe that's why. Um, I don't think any of this is right. I might be getting a little bit ahead of myself in this situation because I feel like I have no clue what I'm doing. Get player controller. Just by calling get player controller if it's a spawned actor. Okay. Then I need the input to get input from get player controller Unreal 5. Okay.
Man, I feel so out of my depth here. Like, I just want a condition to know if after after the component begins overlap, if the player hits an input. That's all I want. Get in. Is input key down? Oh, might have figured it out. Oh, I mean, this looks very that feels like a very rudimentary way to do it, but I think this will work. Oh, wait, no. I need a branch. Okay, yeah, put the branch here. I guess it really doesn't matter where I put the branch, huh? Because that's just player is in box. That here. This might work. This might work, actually. File, save. I don't even think I need to have that do anything. Save that. And then 2. No, it didn't do anything. That's a bummer. Because I'm pretty sure if I just bypass it and do that, it'll do what I need it to do, right? Yeah, so that still works. Oh, it can reverse. Like, I can close the door if I leave it. Hey, look at that. That's kind of cool. Yeah, but the dang input. So that's not right. Because I'm sure if I was to get BP underscore, no, as to BP third person character, and then input. No, that's not right either. Maybe he'll go a bit more into actually what I'm trying to do here. So I'm just going to have faith that he eventually will assist with like getting inputs from different classes in this way. But this was a pretty nice achievement here. At least just doing this in the end as well. All right, so let's get that out of here. All right, back to macros.
There's also another way that we can collapse a bunch of nodes together, and that is by creating a macro. Macro are kind of similar to functions, although there are some key differences. But first, let's go over how to create a macro. So if we just go inside our function, we can copy this bit, and we go to our event graph, paste it here, and just hook from here into the new location, and we'll just move our function. And if I just select all these nodes, I can right click and go collapse to macro. And let's just call this move location macro.
We did that.
If I double click and go inside this move location macro, we can see it's kind of similar to the function. There's some inputs and there's some outputs. We can just select our macro and we can add an output. So I can just click here and I can just call this execute. And then I can just hook up this node to here. Inside of my macro, I can also have variable outputs. So I can just hook this return value into here if I wanted to get the result of whether this was successful. And we can kind of just use macros to collapse a bunch of nodes together that we're working with. I can hook from this location variable to here. And I'm just going to rename this location to travel. And now if I go compile and go to my event graph, when I press the 1 button, I can set my player's location so that he's plus 250 in the z-axis. And I can just do a branch to just check whether this was successful. And if it was, we can print string the word success. So now if I go compile and go play and press 1, it teleports my character up 250 units and it print strings the word successful. So we can kind of use macros and functions to collapse some nodes. So you may be thinking, what's the difference between both of them? So with our functions, they can't perform latent actions. So what I mean by that, if we go inside our function, we can't have any delays. So if I just drag off here and try and look for the delay node, I don't get the normal delay node. However, if I'm inside of my macro, we can perform latent actions. So I can make this have a delay. So I can just drag off here and look for delay. The second key difference between functions and macros is functions can't have multiple outputs, whereas macros can. So inside my function, this is the only return node we can have. However, inside of my macro, so if I just head over to it, if say I just have a branch here and hook this up here, I can have multiple outputs. So maybe I can add a new output, and if this is false, I can make this do output 2.
Okay.
And inside of my event graph, I can make this link to another node. So inside of macros, we can have as many.
I would imagine that. Because I'm thinking in my head, like, what's the difference? Like, why he told me the difference, but why would I use a function and not a macro? I'm assuming functions are less resource intensive than a macro, and you don't always want to have that additional functionality. That's my assumption.
Inputs as we want. Another key difference between functions and macros is when we go over to the blueprint communications section, it's easier to communicate and reference functions from other blueprints. So if I was making this blueprint talk and call the function inside of my third person character, it's easier to do with a function than a macro, although more will be explained about that when we go over to the blueprint communication section. Outputs and inputs as we
Repeat that.
Another key difference between functions and macros is when we go over to the blueprint communication section, it's easier to communicate and reference functions from other blueprints. So if I was making this blueprint talk and call the function inside of my third person character, it's easier to do with a function than a macro, although more will be explained about that when we go over to the blueprint communication section. So in terms of advice whether to use a function or a macro, you'd mainly want to use a macro if there's a part of your blueprint where you want to basically reuse it everywhere quickly. However, it'd be best to use a function if, say, you wanted to reference this from another blueprint.
And that makes sense. Like I said, he's probably going to go over it at some point. I'm sure that's going to be done in blueprint communication. All right, custom events.
The next type of node I want to show you is the custom event node. So we just delete all the macros and functions that we made last time. And to create a custom event, just right click and look for add custom event. Then it's going to ask us to name this custom event. Let's just call this swap materials. We can just write some nodes after here. And the thing with a custom event is now that we've made this, we can call this custom event anywhere else inside of our node. So
Okay. Oh, let's do this. Back to third person. Said get rid of all the macro. Custom event. What did he name it? Just custom event? Oh, swap materials. Name it CE. Swap materials. I know it says custom event, but I feel like that would also just help it stick out pretty easily.
If I press the 1 button, I can call this custom event, so I can just look for swap materials, and I could just paste and call this node at other parts inside of my event graph. So if I just drag off here, after we swap materials, actually,
Does this have to stay here the whole time? If I delete this, it no longer says target is BP third person character. So I guess I have to leave that there.
I'm just going to drag in my player's mesh and look for set material, and we can set the material to be mi_red and just hook this up here. With custom events, we can also add inputs. So if I just select it and add an input here, I can add a branch called isTrue, and when I press this 1 button, I can control whether I want this variable to be true or false. Let's just make it true. And
Okay, yeah, so it does need to be set up somewhere. It's kind of like how you would a function in a code file. You're preparing it to be used somewhere else. You'd probably want to organize it in that way. Okay, so we compile. Input is true. Can trigger that. Oh, that's right. Swap. No. Set material. Which one did he choose? There's multiple set materials.
to be true or false, let's just make it true. And my player's mesh and look for set material, and we can set the material.
I missed which one he chose.
I'll just drag off here. After we swap materials, actually, I'm just going to drag in my player's mesh.
Okay, yeah, he dragged in the mesh first. That makes sense. I think it was already doing what it needed to do. Yeah. Set material. Yeah. All right.
And look for set material, and we can set the material to be mi_red and just hook this up here. With custom events, we can also add inputs. So if I just select it and add an input here, I can add a branch called isTrue, and when I press this 1 button, I can control whether I want this variable to be true or false. Let's just make it true. And if I just drag off here and look for branch, if this condition is true when the custom event is called, we'll swap our player character's material.
Okay. That up, bring that up here. Is true.
So now I go compile and go play and press 1.
Oh, that's right. I got to actually set the material itself. Compile, save, play. Cool. It worked.
my character will turn red. And when we go over to the blueprint communication section, we can also call custom events inside of other blueprints.
Cool. That's exactly what I was trying to. That's exactly what I was trying to figure out how to do previously.
The next node I want to show you is the set timer by event node. So if we just delete everything inside of here, and when we press the 1 button, just drag off here and look for set timer by event.
So we're just getting rid of all of that. Right? Just everything we just did, we're just getting rid of. Yep. That is the case. Set timer tuner. That's crazy that that typo was perfectly spelled tuner. Timer by event.
The set timer by event node. So if we just delete everything inside of here,
Mm-hmm.
and when we press the 1 button, just drag off here and look for set timer by event. And there are a couple of things here. First off, we have the return value. We just want to right click on here and promote it to a variable and just call this timer event variable. You'll see why this is relevant in a second. Next up, we have the event. To create it, just drag off this event and look for add custom event. Let's call this custom event swap colors.
Hey, what are the names again? Timer, event, variable, swap colors. Okay. What was the way he created that again? Obviously, I can just create it down in the variables, but I think he dragged off and made one.
Just want to right click on here and promote it to a variable.
Promote to variable. Okay.
And just call this timer event variable.
Timer
You'll
event
see why
variable.
this is relevant in a second. Next up, we have the event. To create it, just drag off this event and look for add custom event.
Okay. Promote to variable. Timer custom event. And custom event set color.
Let's call this custom event swap colors. Next off, we have the time. So this is going to be how long it takes to execute this event. So let's make it 3 seconds. And then next off, we have looping. And if we check this, this means when we call this event, it's going to do it every 3 seconds. If this isn't looping, then it's going to only do this event once after 3 seconds. For now, just keep this checked.
Why would I use that over a delay note? So I don't need to do the casing like that. I can put a space. Max once per frame.
And
Oh, it paused. Let's make sure I didn't miss anything here.
this isn't looping, then it's going to only do this event once after 3 seconds. For now, just keep this checked. And let's just drag off here and use the flip flop node. And the first time this event is called, we will swap our player character's colors. So I'll look for set material and we can just turn them red. And then I'll just copy this And the second time, we can then just turn them mi_cube01 and go compile. And now let's.
Okay. That was a flip-flop. Set material. Blue. Set material. Red. There we go. Rest again in red. Okay. So if I was to hit looping, that's just going to go ahead and just continue to loop through the materials every 3 seconds, I believe. All right. Yep. Yep. Be a good way to do like a flash indicating that you're low health or taking damage or something like that. Like a strobe light.
Let's go play. If I press the 1 button, it's going to launch that custom event. And every 3 seconds, I should be swapping colors. So first I'm red, then after another 3 seconds, I'll be yellow, then after another 3 seconds, I'll be red. So that's how we can kind of use the set timer by event node. Although maybe you want the timer to eventually stop running, that's why we created this variable, timer event variable. And if I just right click and look for the 2 button, we can make it so that when we press this 2 button, it will stop this event. To do that, if we just drag in our timer event variable, look for get timer event variable, and just drag off here and look for clear and invalidate timer by handle, and just hook this up here. And I'm just going to make this happen a bit more frequently, so 0.5 seconds.
Oh. It's kind of fast. Validate, or clear and invalidate timer by handle. Let's do 1 second. That's right. And then I need the timer custom event. That was it there, right?
And I'm just going to make this happen a bit more frequently, so 0.5 seconds. And now if I go compile and go play, if I press 1, every 0.5 seconds, I'm going to be changing colors. However, if I press the 2 button, it's going to stop that set timer by event from running.
Okay. You can do like an overlap that way, or like when you're not taking damage. It's just whatever event, I guess, that you want to have trigger both of those. That's neat. And 2. And then if I hit 1 again, does it just start going back through it? 2. Cool. All right, that works.
So again, we can just use that set timer by event if we want to have an event which happens multiple times, or you can just have it once, but that's basically how you'd use this node. There's also another type of timer node event that we have. So if I just drag off here, when we press the 1 button, we can look for set timer by function name and just click enter and break the link here. And this kind of works the same as the set timer by event, although this time we can call a function to run on a timer. So if I just right click here and promote this to a variable and call this timer event 2. And if we just create a new function, so we already made one, but let's create a new one, go add, and let's just call this function timer, and then every time we call this function, let's make it say the words print string and print string hello, and we'll make this orange. And if we go back to our event graph and go to the function name, if we call it timer, so this is important, the function name needs to be exactly the same as how it's typed here.
Okay. That timer by function name. It's weird that I can't just drag. Well, I don't know. I guess you would need to be a variable in some way. So let's drag that there. Oh, promote to variable. Timer. Function event. And create a new function. Timer. Oh, and then print string. That's right. Print string. Timer. Let's call it. Sure. Whatever. That works. We close that out. We close that. Close that. Okay. Function name. Timer.
And then under time, let's just make this 2 and check this looping. When I press the 1 button, it's going to call this timer function every 2 seconds. And if I want to stop this timer from running, let's just go over to our 2 key and drag in our timer event 2 and hook this up here. And we can delete this and go compile. Seconds.
Okay.
And if I want to stop this timer from running, let's just go over to our 2 key and drag in our timer event 2 and hook this up here. And we can delete this and go compile and go play. And now if I press 1, every 1 second, I think I made it, or every 2 seconds, it will start print stringing the word hello. If I press the 2 button, it's going to stop that timer. So I press 2, and now that timer event should stop running. So that is basically how you can use the set timer by event node and the set timer by function name node. The next node I want to show you is...
Oh, already on to the next one, I guess. So I guess it's the same thing if I wanted to do it like this, right? Just a different way to do it. Don't just do it by the function. So I guess you can just put all of this essentially could just go into a function, right? Instead. So I could technically over here hit this, get rid of that, put that here, put that there, save. And it would basically just do the same thing, I assume. It did not do the same thing. What did I do wrong here? Oh, I have to have the set color. That's why. Okay. Yeah, because it's not an event. I see. Oh, because it's not looping. That's why. That was it. It's just not looping. That didn't work. Yeah, that still didn't work. That doesn't make any sense because save file. This is supposed to do it. Yeah, and it just keeps going. So why is the flip-flop not working in that case? I'm a bit confused on that. It should just be flip-flopping between A and B. Why is it not? Yeah, every time it ticks, I should be going to red and back to blue. What is the flip-flops not work? I have no idea, bro. I have no idea why that's not working. It is firing off every 0.5 seconds, but it's not flip-flopping back and forth. What? What? Why does that not work? I don't understand. Do flip-flops not work? And set timer by function name? Using a flip-flop node directly inside a function that is called by set timer by function name in Unreal 5 will not work as expected. This is because functions and blueprints reset their local state, including the state of a flip-flop node, each time they're called. Got it. To achieve flip-flop behavior, I need to create a Boolean variable. Well, that makes more sense, I guess.
create a Boolean variable in the blueprint that owns the function being called by the timer. Inside the timer, use the branch node and this Boolean to control the flow. Toggle the Boolean variable after each execution path within the function. Okay, so let's go branch. Move that here. That flip-flop out of here. Condition, true, false. Set, oh here, promote to variable. Oh boy. All right. We'll do is true, I guess. Oh wait, no, we need to. Let's get rid of that. Set is true. Move that over here. Put that there, right here, right here. Right? No, I think the logic flow might be wrong on that. Because it's just going to keep setting it to true each time. Ah. Yeah, this has to go. I see. This has to go right here. Set that to false. And just set that to true. Or other way around, I guess is fine. That there. Okay, I think that should work now. Nope. Does it have to be the other way? Maybe it has to be the other way. There we go. That worked. Beautiful. That's what I wanted. A programming genius. My knowledge knows no bounds, except outside of that which Google can answer for me and this basic beginner tutorial. But outside of that, my knowledge knows no bounds. Okay. Back to what I was doing.
Is the set timer by event node. So if we just delete everything inside of here, and when we press the 1 button, just drag off here and look for set timer by event. And there are a couple of things here. First off, we have the return.
I'm just rewatching the same video that I just watched. Next one.
Hello. So there's one more thing I want to show you in regards to nodes. If we just open up our BP door blueprint, with our nodes, we can double click on any part of them and it will create a reroute node. And this just basically allows us to make our node look a bit cleaner. So I can move my node here if I wanted to, or like here. And again, you just use this if you want to like tidy up how your nodes look. And the final thing in regards to nodes, if I just delete these two, what we can do, just so we can stay organized and remember what nodes you've made, we can just select every single node and then click the C button and we can comment a node. So I can maybe call this open door when the game starts. And then if you want to, we can change the font size of this. So if you want it to be really big, and you can change the color of this. So maybe you want this node to be red. So we can just use these two handy tools to keep our nodes organized.
Yeah, easy. Luckily, that is something that I did already know. All right, casting.
Hello. In this next section, we're going to be going over all the different ways we can make blueprints communicate with each other. To showcase my first example, if we just right click and create a new blueprint class and select an actor and just call this BP_cube. If we head inside this blueprint and under components, just go add and select a cube. And if we just select this cube, scroll down and change its collision presets to be overlap all. And if we scroll down and just click this on component begin overlap, the first blueprint communication method I want to show you is casting.
See, this is what I was trying to look at a bit ago, that I had no clue where to go with it. So in that case, it was an actor, right? He said to cast or create an actor.
Each other. To showcase my first example, if we just right click and create a new blueprint class and select an actor and just call this BP_cube. If we head inside this blueprint and under components, just go add and select a cube. And if we just select this cube, scroll down and change its collision presets to be overlap all. And if we scroll down and just click this on component begin overlap,
Collision. Overlap all. Okay. File. And graph. Begin overlap.
the first blueprint communication method I want to show you is casting. Casting is a blueprint communication method where you reference an actor, and if you reference it,
How did you get to that?
I want to show you is casting. Casting is a blueprint communication method where you reference an actor,
Oh, he
and
didn't
if you
show.
reference it successfully, you'll be able to reference any information inside of it. With casting, there's only communication between the current actor and the actor you're trying to cast to. In case that didn't make any sense, I'm going to show you an example of what I mean now. So, if we just right click and look for cast to the BP_third person character, we can drag off this as BP third person character and reference all the variables inside of him. So if I just drag off here and look for vector, I can get and also set the vector variable that we made inside of our player character.
What I was trying to figure out earlier. Okay. Bit BP. The cast. BP. Third person character. And then you can get all the variables under there. Yeah, I can do that.
So
Neat.
just scroll down and look for set vector. If you don't remember, inside of our third person character, earlier we made a bunch of variables, and using the casting communication method, we can reference and change any variable inside of our third person character. In order to successfully reference and change anything inside of our third person character, we need to make sure that we're casting correctly. So with our cast,
What's the other variable he's getting? Target vector. Why are we doing that? Oh, just to show. Yeah, okay.
we have an object. With our object, we need to get a reference to our third person character. So if I just hook this up to my cube and hook this into here, if my third person character overlaps this cube, then I'm going to be able to make a reference to my third person character and change something inside of here. So if I just go to my third person character and we have this variable called apples. If you don't, just create a new variable and make an integer and just call it apples. I'm just going to delete this. And when I press the 2 button, I'm going to get the amount of apples I have and print string it on the screen. So I look for print string and just connect this into here and go compile.
And that's inside the third person character. Okay, let's get rid of all this. I could probably just get rid of the timer function, to be honest. I don't think I'm going to need that again. Get rid of that. I don't think I'm going to need, I don't need that. I don't think I'm going to need any of this either. Get rid of that. Okay. Make apples variable, set it as an integer, compile. Get. Is it incrementing? Oh, it just gets it in a string. Print string. Okay.
And let's make this start at a value of 0. However, if my third person character overlaps this cube, then as my third person character reference, I'm going to set the amount of apples they have to be a value of, let's say, 5. And if I just connect this into here, and we can delete these nodes and go compile.
Set. Oh, I think I had to do it from here. Set apples. Set to 1. I think you said 1.
Close this, and let's just drag in this cube here. And if I go play, if I press 2, it will print string 0, so I have 0 apples. However, if I overlap this cube and now press 2, it will now say 5 because I have 5 apples. So I'm just going to delete the other blueprints.
Okay. Have to bring the cube out. That's right. Okay. Save. Play. One. That's still at 1. I could probably do this as well, right? Set apples. Nope. Apples. Add. One each time. And do it like that. It just keeps adding apples, maybe. I don't think that's going to work. I don't think that's how that works. Oh, it did. Oh, that did work. Cool. Does this need to be here? I think it does, right? Yeah, that still needs to be there. Okay.
That I made because they're taking up a bit of space. And if I go back to my BB cube, that's kind of how we can use casting, although there's a bit more that we can do with it. So if I go back to my third person character, let's say I create a function. Actually, we already have a function called timer. With casting, it allows us to easily reference functions. So if I just drag off my third person character, I can reference the timer function I made by just looking for timer. And let's say my player character overlaps this cube, I can just easily call this function. Although let's say I try and reference a macro inside my third person character. So we made one called move location. There's a bit more that we can do with it. So if I go back to my third person character, let's say I create a function. Actually, we already have a function called timer. With casting, it allows us to easily reference functions. So if I just drag off my third person character, I can reference the timer function I made by just looking for timer.
Oh, did I get rid of that? I got rid of the timer function. I won't need that. Why would I need that?
And
silly.
Let's say my player character overlaps this cube. I can just easily call this function. Although let's say I try and reference a macro inside my third person character. So we made one called move location macro. If I just drag up here and look for move location, there is no move location macro. So remember earlier in the last section, that's where you may want to use functions if you want it to like communicate with other blueprints.
Gotcha. Yeah, macros
So
can't be communicated with in that way.
Another function and call it change colors. And in this change color function, we can just get our mesh and set its material to be a different color. So I'll just make it this blue, hook this up here and go compile. And when my player character overlaps this box, we'll cast to them and look for the change colors function and just hook this up here. And I'll delete this and go compile. And if I go play, go here. When I overlap that cube, I will change colors. So we can just use.
Makes sense. Function, change color. Then if we set we'll just make an is true again. Boolean. We'll go to set material. Red. Oh, it's got to be branched. Okay. I don't want it to go in and out, so we'll go branch. True. Is true. And then the same thing here. False. Oh. False. Set. And So now that should work. It should change it every time I go over it, I think. Am I in the wrong? Oh, this is supposed to be in the cube. That's why. Silly me. Silly me. Right, change colors within the cube itself. Right? Oh, no. Okay, this can stay that way. I just have to go over to cube. Get rid of that. Yeah, okay. Set color. Nope. That wasn't it. Is that even the right name? Change color. Change color. File, save. Yep. Didn't work. Did I have that backwards again? No, that didn't work either. Change color fires. The condition is true. Sets to red. They're both set to red. They're both set to red. Oh, I might need to set the proper material color first. I'm just going back and forth between red each time. That makes sense. Blue. And let's go ahead and flop those. Actually, I think that's how it goes. Blue, red. Perfect. Amazing. My knowledge is expanding every day. Basic things like this just get built on, and the more you build on it, the more you learn. As long as it's being reviewed as you're building on that knowledge, you can really hone in on more specific types of functionality or more specific types of results that you need. That's for anything. It could be for this. It could be for learning to draw. It could be for learning any type of new skill. As long as you just keep building on that knowledge and reviewing the old knowledge, you'll just continue to grow as whatever type of skill that you're wanting to grow. So just keep at it. Don't give up. Things feel hard in the beginning. They'll continue to feel hard and they'll just get less and less hard. And you'll look back and you'll think, wow, why did I even think that was hard? Oh, hello. How's it going, Bacon Guy? Thanks for stopping by. We're doing some Unreal learning right now. I'm very new to all this, as I was just saying. But just basic little things of running over boxes and changing the color as you go in and out of the box. Seems very basic at first, but spent quite a bit figuring out the right logic flow. Just building off of what this guy told me here in the tutorial, and just trying to apply additional functionality to that based on previous knowledge. Is there anything that you've been learning lately, or trying to get better at, feel free to tell me about it.
Casting to easily communicate with one blueprint to another. So one important thing for casting, in order for it to work, it needs to have a valid object reference to the thing it's trying to cast to. So if it didn't, then this cast would fail. So I'm just going to showcase an example of that. If I just drag this off here and look for print string, and I'll make this say failed. And if this is successful, I'll print string this and make it say success. And if I just break the link here, and for the object reference, if I just dragged up here and made this self, so we can make objects get a reference to themselves. If I just want to compile, we can see it's already warning me that this will fail because this self reference cannot cast to the third person character. But if I just tried it,
That's right. It's got to be under the correct class here. Okay, so talking about casting to self.
so we can make objects get a reference to themselves. If I just want to compile, we can see it's already warning me that this will fail because this self-reference cannot cast to the third person character. But if I just tried it and went play and overlap this cube, we can see that the cast will print string failed because it failed to cast. So in order for a cast to work, it needs to make sure it has a valid object reference to the thing it's trying to cast to. One more thing with casting, we can also quickly cast custom events. So if I go to my third person character and right click and look for add custom event, and let's just call this test. And we can hook this up to our print stringing of how many apples we have. And I'll go compile, go to my cube, and I'll just reconnect this here and delete this. And I'll just delete these two nodes. And if I just drag off here, I can quickly reference my custom event by looking for test and go and compile. So with casting, you can quickly reference custom events and functions.
Okay. So I think that answers my question from earlier about how to get the actual input. So I was trying to make a door open earlier, and I can make the door open when I actually walk through the box, this box specifically here. I'll get rid of that. I don't need that anymore. So I can make the door open if I actually walk into the box, but I would like to make it open when I hit an input as well. And I think he just kind of answered my question. So if I come over here and there's in box, okay. So if I cast to BP third person character, as BP third person character, I can probably put like a requested to open, compile there. Let's just move that up here. Get requested to open. Just drag that back here. And need a branch to check the condition. True. Okay, yeah, that's how I need that. And come back to BP third person into the actual event graph. Let's get rid of that. And let's go to set requested to open as true. And then maybe set it to false. I can just drag it over here. If I hit 2, set it to false, save. Save. Okay, we'll put that in the reverse as well. So I think that should work. Oh, type of object is undetermined. Oh, that's right. Okay. The overlapped component. No. So that connect something to cast to imply a specific type. I don't think that's going to work either. Oh, I think that might have worked. Save. No, that didn't work. Okay. Well, that's a bummer, ain't it? Let's try a print string just to see if that does anything at all. Oh, okay. Oh, because it's on begin overlap. That's why. Okay, so if I hit it while outside of that, it is working. So is there a see overlap box? Is there a different like while overlapped? Because that only applies if it like begins the overlap. Hmm. Maybe hit? Maybe on component hit? No, because the hit only works if it's blocked. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I'm not quite sure how I would do that. I wanted to check while it's continuously overlapping. Let's try maybe Hmm. Let's check the old Google. Oh, I'd have to do it on tick. Hmm. I'd rather do it on a timer than on tick. Yeah, it's probably a little more advanced than where I'm at currently. I haven't really even been taught about proper use of a tick function, but or a tick event. But at least I was able to still get this working. That's fine. I'm okay with that progress there. That still work? Yeah, it still opens, closes if I walk away. Sure, implementing a tick function into that is a little bit past where I am currently in my lessons.
So my project just crashed, so I just remade my BP cube. Last time we made it so that this cube has a collision preset of overlap all, and when our player character overlaps with this cube, we'll cast to our player character and then call some custom events. An alternative way of giving our cube collision is just by going to components, and we can go add and look for collision. And there are three types of collision: box collision, capsule collision, and sphere collision. If we just select box collision, and we can use the box extent or the select and scale objects to fit our box around our cube. And if you scroll down, just make sure that your box has a collision of overlap all dynamic or overlap all. And like I said, this is just an alternative way of giving our box some collision. With that, we can close this and go on to the next section. Hello, the next blueprint.
Hang on. Gotta fix that real quick. All right. Let's back it up a little bit.
And when our player character overlaps with this cube, we'll cast to our player character and then call some custom events. An alternative way of giving our cube collision is just by going to components, and we can go add and look for collision. And there are three types of collision: box collision, capsule collision, and sphere collision. If we just select box collision, and we can use the box extent or the select and scale objects to fit our box around our cube. And if you scroll down, just make sure that your box has a collision of overlap all dynamic or overlap all. And like I said, this is just an alternative way of giving our box some collision. With that, we can close this and go on to the next section. Hello. The next Blueprint communication method that I want to go over is the Blueprint interface. And this basically allows our Blueprint to communicate with whatever has this Blueprint interface. So let's go over how this works now. If we just open up our content drawer and right click and go Blueprints and select a Blueprint interface and just call this BP underscore interface. And if we double click and head inside here, we can see it has six functions. Just create a new function and call this interact.
Okay.
And if we just
Let's close out of that. Back here. Oh, I think I missed the exact type of blueprint made. Is it separate than a blueprint class? Blueprint interface. There we go. Okay. All right.
file and save this. And if we just head over to our
You just named it interact. All right. Interact, compile, save.
BP underscore cube and go to class settings, and under interfaces here, just go add and add the BP interface that we just made. And now if we go compile and you go to the section called interfaces, we should see that interact event that we made in this BP interface. And
Run
under
that back.
interfaces here, just go add and add the BP interface that we just made. And now if we go compile and you go to the section called interfaces, we should see that interact event that we made in this BP interface. So now in some free space in my event graph, if I just right click and look for event, interact, and it should look something like this, we can now call this event interact from other blueprints.
Oh.
So let's go over how to do that.
Oh, you can just call that anywhere? That's neat. So we were what did I miss?
In this BP interface. Class settings, and under interfaces here, just go add and add the BP interface that we just made.
Okay, class settings. Class settings, interface, add BP underscore interface. And interact. Cool.
And now if we go compile and you go to the section called interfaces, we should see that interact event that we made in this BP interface. So now in some free space in my event graph, if I just right click and look for event, interact, and it should look something like this, we can now call this event.
I don't think that was what I was supposed to grab. Okay.
Interact from other blueprints. So let's go over how to do that now. If I just close this and go to my third person character, and if I select this capsule collision and scroll down and go on component begin overlap, we're first going to check to see if this other actor has an interface. To do that, we can just drag off here and look for does implement interface. And the interface we're going to be checking for is the BP interface. And if this condition is true, so I'll just left click and select B. If this is true, then I'm going to call the interact event. So with interfaces, we don't need to do any casting. We can simply just drag off this other actor and call the interact event. So we want to look for this interact message. And now when my player character overlaps another actor, if it has this BP interface, it's just going to call that interact event. So inside of our cube, let's make it so that when we overlap this cube, it destroys this actor.
I did already delete that. Let's bring that back out. I'm always trying to learn new things. I'm a game dev professionally, but recently I've been trying to do more stuff that doesn't have me tied to a computer screen. I understand that for sure, Bacon Guy. Most of my hobbies, I'd say pretty much all of my hobbies have tied me to a computer screen. Yeah, more outdoor stuff is fun. Learning to do like different types of crafts, like even things like woodworking or like plant care as well, like gardening. Things of that nature have always been interesting. It's just not stuff that I've made the time to actually explore into. Are there outdoor activities that, or I guess outside of a computer screen activities that you've been mainly interested in that aren't computer screen oriented? Oh, I do like playing guitar. It is fun. That's not tied to a computer screen. Although usually when I'm trying to learn more about guitar, I'm also sitting in front of a screen, like looking up chords or tutorial or like covers and such. So in a way that is a little bit tied to a screen. But I'm interested to hear other hobbies that you're interested in that you're not focused on a computer screen for. I've gotten into building racing RC cars with some of my family members. That's pretty cool. I haven't messed with RC cars in a long time. When I was younger, I think in high school, maybe middle school, one of my friends was really into RC car racing. He would go out to a dirt track with a couple other of our buddies a couple times a week and just race his RC cars around, because I don't think anyone else we knew really had RC cars, but he had, I think, like 10, 12 of those things. So we would just all grab one of his RC cars and just race them in a circle, just and have to repair little bits of the body as they would, kind of crash into each other, really just with like duct tape and other basic things that we had around, But yeah, RC car racing is a lot of fun. And some of those suckers go fast, man. Like really fast, like dangerously fast. Sometimes it feels like if you get hit by that, that's going to be into a pretty heavy injury level. But it just depends on the RC car, I'd imagine. He did have an RC boat as well that was pretty neat. And he always talked about like getting an RC plane, but I don't think he ever did. Yeah, you've been hit by one. Yeah, those suckers will hit you in the ankle real hard, leave a couple scrapes and bruises. And I don't know what it is. Something about getting hit directly onto the bone it's a stinging, lasting pain that takes quite a second to go away. But yeah, that's fun. Yeah, if you can find like little tracks to take those out to and race with other people. That's usually where the most fun lies with those RC cars. That's awesome. I wish I had space around where I live to do that now. Just kind of in a smaller neighborhood. I don't really have. I mean, I could go out to like a countryside, maybe 20 minutes or so away. Race 1/5 scales. So it's, yeah, that's pretty big. It's pretty big. Oh man. Yeah. Ouch. That's tough. Well, definitely maybe wear some pads or something around your ankles. I don't know. I don't really know what you would do in that case. Maybe even your knees. That's probably going to hit your shins at that point. Get some shin guards. It's tough.
And go compile. If, say, I just duplicate this cube, so I'll just press Ctrl C, Ctrl V, open it up, and let's make our cube green. When I interact with this cube, let's say we will make our cube bigger. So I'll just drag in my cube and look for set world scale 3D, and let's make it 5 in all its axes.
Okay. Oh, I don't think I added in the destroy actor node. So on BP cube 2. Oh, I missed when he made the second one. I'll probably still do it on BP cube 1. So we'll just do destroy actor. Let's get rid of that. I don't need to change color anymore. And cube, set world scale 3D. Oh, I think, yeah. Oh no, it's this cube right here. So he's destroying. Did he get rid of that? He's still destroying himself while also setting it to world scale. Maybe I missed what he was doing there. But I'll just do what he's doing.
And now I go compile.
Oh, I see.
And go save.
Yeah, here, let's get rid of that. I see what the problem was there. So let's just try destroying the actor. And that didn't work. And interact. I did not put anything under interact. That's probably why. That's under door. Okay. Oh, we don't need to have the door open right there. Did he, maybe he set something under that event that I missed. Let me just head back real quick over here. Run that back for me.
And we just compile and save this. And if we just head over to our BP_cube and go to class settings and under interfaces here, just go add and add the BP interface that we just made. And now if we go compile and you go to the section called interfaces, we should see that interact event that we made in this BP interface. So now in some free space in my event graph, if I just right click and look for event, interact, and it should look something like this. We can now call this event interact from other blueprints. So let's go over how to do that now. If I just close this and go to my third person character, and if I select this capsule collision and scroll down and go on component begin overlap, we're first going to check to see if this other actor has an interface.
I think I did that already, right? Yeah, think I did that part.
To do that, we can just drag off here and look for does implement interface. And the interface we're going to be checking for is the BP interface. And if this condition is true, so I'll just left click and select B.
Mm-hmm.
If this is true, then I'm going to call the interact event. So with interfaces, we don't need to do any casting. We can simply just drag off this other actor and call the interact event. So we want to look for this interact message. And now when my player character overlaps another actor, if it has this BP interface, it's just going to call that interact event. So inside of our cube, let's make it so that when we overlap this cube, it destroys this actor.
Mm-hmm.
And go compile. If say I just duplicate this cube, so I'll just press Ctrl C, Ctrl V, open it up, and let's make our cube green. When I interact with this cube, let's say we will make our cube bigger. So I'll just drag in my cube and look.
Gotcha. That's what he did there. I don't think. Yeah, I don't need that. Okay. File. Duplicate that. Open that up. Get rid of that. Put that there. Oh, and then we're going to set the cube to a different color. Just blue is fine.
Set world scale 3D, and let's make it 5 in all its axes.
Okay.
And now I go compile and go save. And I'll just drag in my other cube. And I go play. When I interact with this cube, it should destroy. And when I interact with this green cube, it should become a size of 5. So you can use interfaces as another way of communicating across different.
What? I missed the part. I think I must have missed the part where it can even tell that it's being overlapped. I see we did this here. Did I not? Was I not supposed to do that in the third person? No, that's right. I did nothing there. Mm-hmm. I put the interface under cube, right? Did I put that under the third person by accident? No. It's there. Yeah, could be an overlap. Yeah. Is that the part I messed up? No, interlap. Or interlap. Interact. Yep, goes there. Oh, tell me what I'm doing wrong. You'll tell me if I ask. Yeah, if you know what I'm doing wrong here, or what I missed, feel free to let me know. Because I'm still learning. Like any help would definitely uh, would be appreciated. I must have missed where the interaction is coming from. Actually, and I'll test it first. Maybe I just didn't test it in the right spot. But yeah, feel free to let me know. Yeah, because that's not doing anything right now. You hooked up begin overlap to component instead of actor. I see. Thank you for telling me that. Okay. Oh, yep. Okay. That under oh, wait a second. Begin overlap cube. Oh, did I not even put it in cube? I don't even think I put it there. Let's get back to, yeah, that makes sense. Oh, for actor. Gotcha. Compile, save. And what else was this here that I missed? Hang on. He also had, okay. Okay, I think I missed this part here as well. I appreciate the heads up on that. Thank you. On component begin overlap cast to third person or BP third person and test. Okay, so that's got to be in cube. Cube component begin overlap. To BP. Third person character. And that was other actor. And then that went into test. Wait, what was the? What is this test he had? Maybe that's from some. No, that's got to be from here. Where did he create that test?
Cube, and go to class settings.
Maybe that
and
was
under interfaces here.
That was last time.
Just go add, and add the BP interface that we just made.
Let's just give it a shot for right now. Hey, that worked. Perfect. You're incredible, Bacon Guy. Thank you. Yeah, I'm not sure where the that extra bit he put there came from. I mean, he might have said it in the last one, but there have been a couple times where I've gone from one lesson to another, and there's like extra variables that were definitely not there before that he probably either added it in a video that got deleted or what have you, but he might have done that in the last section. I probably just missed it. Cool. That worked. You're a legend, man. Thank you. Yeah, that's silly. Overlap component, other actor. That's funny. But that was here. Yeah, other actor. What kind of What kind of game dev work do you do? Are you actually are you typically programming, or are you like an artist, or somewhere in between? Curious what kind of stuff you do um, professionally, because you said you're a professional game dev, but I guess that could also encompass a wide range of different disciplines.
And now if we go compile and you go to the section called interfaces, we should see that interact event that we made in this BP interface. So now question mark and compile and save that.
Let's get back over here.
Interface. Interact with this cube, it should destroy. And when I interact with this green cube, it should become a size of 5. So you can use interfaces as another way of communicating across different blueprints. With our blueprint interfaces, we can also add variables to them. So we go back to our BP interface and just select our function. It has an input and an output function. Let's first go over the input function. So I can just go add to add a new variable to it. And let's just call this is true, question mark, and compile and save that. And then if we head over to our BB cube, this first one, we can see it has this is true. We can just drag up here and look for a branch and hook this into here. And if this variable is true, then we'll destroy the actor. If it is false, then we will just print string the word false. And now I can compile and head back to my third person character.
Okay. Just make sure I understood that properly. Okay, so yeah, we're adding the input parameter. It's true. And just
this is true. We can just drag up here and look for a branch and hook this into here. And if this variable is true, then we'll destroy the actor. If it is false, then we will just print string the word false. And now I can compile and head back to my third person character. And now in our third person character, on the interact, we can control whether we want this variable to be true or false. Let's just make it true. Actually, let's leave it false. And now I can compile and go play and try and interact with this cube. It's going to say the false message. So with our interfaces, if we want to, we can add
okay. Under third person. That won't work unless it's set to true. Perfect. Sweet. I mainly do programming in Unreal, but I do dabble in other areas too. Nice. That's awesome, man. So I'm sure it's probably frustrating to see me stumble through all of this when you already know what to do. That's always a frustrating thing to watch. Like, it's kind of like best thing to relate to is like if you're watching someone play a game, they have no idea how to play, but you know very well how to play. It's probably like, oh, just do that. It's right there. But yeah, although not everyone feels that way, but it's a very It's a very common feeling to have when you watch someone do something that you already know how to do. But I do appreciate you hanging out here and just kind of, you know, guiding me through that like you did a second ago. And if you have any, what's the word? You have any questions that also pertain to anything outside of this, happy to answer as well. Because I know you were talking about like your hobbies and other things that you're trying to get into outside of a computer screen. So if you ever wanted to ask anything that's not related to what I'm doing here, feel free. I'm happy to answer anything that I feel comfortable answering. Are there other areas that you've been dabbling in that aren't programming that you enjoy doing? And also, are there other areas that you dabble in that you feel like you have to do? Because I guess I'm not sure exactly how structured your work or your job professional setting is. If that's something that you're expected to like learn other disciplines in while you're also programming, or if that's just something like you kind of do for fun. Because like art and other things like that are very appealing to people who are not doing art, and vice versa. People who do art, programming is also very appealing. So if there's other things that you're dabbling in that you're interested in, I'd certainly be happy to hear about it.
True. Actually, let's leave it false. And now if I could compile and go play and try and interact with this cube, it's going to say the false message. So with our interfaces, if we want to, we can add variables. We can also add outputs to our Blueprint interfaces. So to showcase this, if we create another function and just call this interact2,
their function inside the interface. Okay, that's neat. So the interface, where did I have that? Right here. Cool.
and under outputs, just add a new output. And let's just again call this is true. And if I go compile, and go to my BP cube, and under interfaces, we should see this interact2. When we make an interface have an output, if we double click inside of it, we can control the value of this output. So I'm just going to right click here and promote this to a variable and make this instance editable.
Oh, compile. What did he do here? Oh, he's in the function itself. Right? No, this is the function.
Interact2. When we make an interface have an output, if we double click inside of it, we can.
Okay. BP cube. There we go. What variable is true.
And control the value of this output. So I'm just going to right click here and promote this to a variable and make this instance editable. And just go compile. Okay. And now if I head inside my third person character, instead of calling the interact message, if my capsule overlaps anything, I'm going to call the interact2 message. So I'll just drag off here and look for.
All right, back to BP third person character. That was, let's make sure I'm pulling from the right node there.
Capsule overlaps anything, I'm going to call the interact.
Okay, interact 2.
2 message. So I'll just drag off here and look for interact 2 message.
Mm-hmm.
And we can see this has an output and we've controlled this output inside of our BP cube with this variable. And let's say if this is true, then we will destroy the actor. So to do that, we can just drag off this other actor and look for destroy actor. And if this is false, we'll do nothing.
Okay, so we want to branch, addition, destroy actor. I enjoy helping people learn. I tend to hang around in Twitch streams and help when I can. Well, you're in the right spot. I appreciate all your help, man. That's exactly what I'm doing here, is just trying to learn more, because most of what I've done previously has been really just art. I've dabbled in 3D art, but it's mostly been 2D art. Like I've made like a little comic series that I've made that is on my Instagram, and also on like Blue Sky and other places I've posted. So I've, up until a couple months ago, I've mostly just been making little comics in Procreate. But I thought I thought it'd be fun to create 3D art in the same comic style that I do, because it's mostly just like two-tone cell shaded styles, very simple characters. So I thought it'd be fun to maybe make something that's interactive in a similar style, but I have to learn all of the basics before I even get close to doing something like that. I've tried to just like jump in and make projects before, but I'm so out of my depth in that realm. So I wanted to just take it to the basics, and I thought it'd be fun to stream and hold myself accountable while learning these basics. I have my own projects I work on too, so I end up learning other subjects out of necessity: 3D modeling, sound design, Photoshop, etc. Yeah, it's game development really does kind of encompass a lot of different disciplines. I did learn a lot about sound design and sound engineering when I just got, like, right after high school, but so that, I mean, audio engineering is something I'm a lot more comfortable with. I'd say, if anything, I'm most comfortable with audio engineering in programs like Logic or Pro Tools. It's a very expensive profession to just have like as your main job. Well, a lot of like equipment and software and other necessary things for professional audio engineering. It's hard to maintain. A lot of it goes outdated very quickly. So even though I went to school for that, really just like a trade school after I got out of high school, it's not something I ended up continuing to do professionally. So that would be a fun thing to include in any type of future project that I'm able to create once I get more of these basics down. And while I was going to school there, I just kind of did some like Blender Guru tutorials and got a bit more used to how Blender works when I was younger. So I know a lot of like the basics of 3D modeling in Blender, and like some shortcuts, and like how to recreate objects from pictures, more basic objects. But the more advanced stuff, like getting into like materials, or like things like Substance Painter, or just other more advanced parts of 3D modeling, it's something I'm still a little bit out of my depth on. But as far as like the actual modeling of the object itself, I feel decently comfortable doing that. I've never been able to get 3D modeling down. I've tried learning many times, and it's just never been my thing. Yeah, I learned from Blender Guru, just starting with the basic donut. And from there, it's just a lot of the shortcuts and such that are taught in those tutorials make it easier to apply that to more advanced things, or more advanced models. But again, the advanced parts of like materials and like mesh generation, like the mesh nodes that they have now. It's a lot of that I believe is more of like procedurally based, and that's just something that's a lot more outside of my depth. So anything that I can create, it's really going to be devoid of any advanced materials, which is why I thought it'd be fun to try to translate the 2D art style that I've had in my previous comics into a 3D style, because it's really just like a flat color, and how bright it is. You can kind of toy with like the emissiveness of materials to make it look like it's like a bright color, or just completely remove lighting from those types of objects or materials to make it look a bit brighter and flatter. But there is a fine point, or there's like a little gray area in between something that's not emissive and something that is emissive, to where it's not really casting light on other things. It just looks a little bit brighter, kind of like a cartoon, you know. And any types of like hard styles of shadows, or non PBR based shadows, I could probably just end up learning from other tutorials. But outside of all that, yeah, I'm anything more advanced than that. It's a little bit over my head right now. And there's programs that are much easier to use than Blender, from what I've heard. Apparently, Blender is one of the more difficult programs to learn with. It's getting easier as the updates keep progressing, but from what I've read, the more expensive paid 3D modeling programs are much more intuitive to use than something like Blender. But that's just what I've read. I don't have experience with like super expensive programs like Maya, or I think like Houdini is another one, but that's entirely node based.
So I could compile, close this, and select this cube. I'll duplicate it by selecting Alt and selecting it just to duplicate it. And let's make one of them is true and one of them false. And if I go play, and I go to the one that is true, when I overlap it, I destroy it. However, if I go to the one which is false, because that variable is false, when we overlap it, we can't destroy it.
Oh, that's right. Okay, so he was setting that as instance editable. Save, compile. Got a little bit outside of my attention span for a second. We can just head back and kind of review what he said.
And just go compile. And now if I head inside my third person character, instead of calling the interact message, if my capsule overlaps anything, I'm going to call the interact to message. So I'll just drag off here and look for interact to message. And we can see this has an output, and we've controlled this output inside of our BP cube with this variable. And let's say if this is true, then we will destroy the actor. So to do that, we can just drag off this other actor and look for destroy actor. And if this is false, we'll do nothing. So I could compile, close this, and select this cube.
That's right. Okay. So yeah, that's why he made it instance editable. Save. Oh, here, we'll do it on that one here. So we'll just Alt drag, set this one to true, this one to false. I think that should work. Oh, I destroyed myself. That's not what I wanted to do. I can't really do much if I myself am destroyed. Whoops. The self-harm is out of control on the BP third person character right now. Okay. Oh, because the target self, is that what it was? I think he set the target differently. Let me check. Head on back.
So to do that, we can just drag off this other actor and look for destroy actor. And if this is false, we'll do nothing.
Oh, maybe it's because I didn't. Yeah, that's why. The target is self right now. So other actor. There we go. Whoops. Okay. That's how we needed to do it. Perfect.
So I can compile, close this, and select this cube. I'll duplicate it by selecting Alt and selecting it just to duplicate it. And let's make one of them is true and one of them false. And if I go play, and I go to the one that is true, when I overlap it, I destroy it. However, if I go to the one which is false, because that variable is false, when we overlap
Perfect.
it, we can't destroy it. So that's kind of how we can use Blueprint interfaces. They can just have functions, they can also have inputs if we want them to, and they can also have outputs.
Well, that's nice. It seems like a very versatile way to use functionality across different blueprints. All right. Event dispatcher. I think the event dispatcher would be a good cap to this section.
Hello. Next, let's go over the final way of making blueprints communicate with each other, and that is by using event dispatchers. To create one, if we head over to our third person character and go to this panel here at the bottom called event dispatchers and just click the create button, and let's just give this an appropriate name. So I'll just give this test dispatcher. Now, in order to reference and call an event dispatcher, if I just right click and look for the 3 button, when I press the 3 button, I'm going to call my event dispatcher. So just drag it in, and you just want to look for the call button.
Okay. We're still on, third person. Event 3. Oh, let's do that. All pressed.
Now when I press the 3 button, it's going to call this test dispatcher. Although currently this does nothing. In order to make this activate and do something, if we head over to another one of our blueprints,
a cat has left.
Let's go to this green cube. If I double click and open it up, to reference and call an event dispatcher, if we just right click and look for the event begin play node, event begin play, we're going to drag off here and look for cast to the third person character in order to get his object reference.
Okay, that was on BP cube. Oh. Oh, I'm inside interact. That's why. Silly. Okay. As to BP third person character.
Correctly, what we can do is just right click and look for get player character. This will get the player character that the character is currently playing as, and because we're in the third person game mode, we'll be playing as the BP third person character, so we can hook this up here. And now that we're here, we can just drag up here and look for bind to test dispatcher, and then we can just drag off this event and just drag up here and look for add custom event. And let's just call this swap colors. And I can just drag up here and have a flip-flop. And I'll just drag in my
we're just doing the set material again.
and I'll make it swap between two colors. So let's look for set material and make it swap between this pink and this blue. And now if I go compile,
Pink and red.
oops, if I go back to my third person character, I just need to compile here, and then I should be able to compile here. Sometimes Unreal just does that. So when we press the 3 button, we're going to be calling this test dispatcher. Inside of our BP cube, event begin play, we have casted to our third person character and binded this test event dispatcher to this custom event. So now when my third person character presses the 3 button, it's going to be calling this test dispatcher inside the BP underscore cube 2. Let's just test that this all works. And now,
And that wasn't, the target was still self on that, I think. Yeah, it's just self still.
inside of our BP cube, event begin play, we have casted to our third person character and binded this test event dispatcher to this custom event. So now when my third person character presses the 3 button, it's going to be calling this test dispatcher inside the BP underscore cube 2. Let's just test that this all works. And now if I press 3, we can see that that cube will swap colors whenever I press the 3 button because it's bounded to my event dispatcher. And like with our other Blueprint communication methods, our event dispatchers can also pass on variable information. So if I just go to its inputs and add a new parameter, we can just call this new parameter. And if I go compile and go to my cube and go compile, we can see it has that new parameter here. And using this, we can control whether we want this to be true or false.
Okay. That was. Oh. Test dispatcher.
New parameter here. And using this, we can control whether we want this to be true or false. Then the last.
Did he just add it from right there? Where did he add that? Just under input? Okay. Oh, I see.
If I just go to its inputs and add a new parameter, we can just call this new parameter. And if I go compile and go to my cube and go compile, we can see it has that new parameter here. And using this, we can control whether we want this to be true or false. Then the last thing I want to show you with event dispatchers is how to make them stop working. So currently at the start of the game, we bind our cube to our event dispatcher inside our third person character. If you ever wanted to unbind it, what we could do is I'm going to have event begin play, and I'm actually just going to move everything a bit up. And event begin play, I'm going to have a sequence. So first, I'm going to bind this event dispatcher to my third person character. Then after, let's say, a delay of 5 seconds, we can copy all of this again. Although this time, off of my third person characters, I'm going to look for unbind test dispatcher.
Okay, so just copying
again.
That.
Although this time, off of my third person characters, I'm going to look for unbind test dispatcher. And for the event, just hook this up to the swap colors event here. And let's also just add a print string here so that we know when we've unbinded this event dispatcher.
Okay. Okay. So that was here. I should copy that first. Here. And then into unbind. Yeah, maybe test. Yep. Test dispatcher. That. Oh, that's right. I would need to grab that. And then down here. No, maybe not. Must have missed a step.
And let's also just add a print string here so that we know when unbind test dispatcher. And for the event, just hook this up to the swap colors event here. And
Maybe I grabbed the wrong node. I must have grabbed the wrong node. Let's run it back.
although this time, all of my
Is it not hooked up? Oh, it's hooked up to the delay as BP third person. Wait, was that it? No, that's going in there. Cast to BP third person. As BP third person. Go to unbind event from test dispatcher.
third person characters, I'm going to look for unbind test dispatcher. And for the event, just hook this up to the swap colors event here. And let's also just add a print string here so that we know when we've unbinded this event dispatcher. And I'll just make this print string say unbind.
Does not seem to want to hook up here. I'm sure it's something that I'm doing wrong, but I guess I'm willing to accept that maybe it's a version difference as well. So he's on a much older version of Unreal 5. But I don't imagine that would be the problem here. I'm sure I'm just doing something wrong. Let's run that back one more time. Okay. Calls test dispatcher. BP third person. Bind to event test dispatcher. Okay, we did the flop in colors. Right. Okay, yep, that's all right. Cast BP third person, bind event. Yeah, that's still all the same. 3, call test dispatcher. Yep, that was working. Mm-hmm. Ah, that's probably what it is. Not connected, unbind event from test dispatcher and dispatcher. Oh, and that works. Yeah, that was kind of finicky. It's weird that I had to compile it and then it gave me an error before I could then go. It gave me an error telling me that there was nothing connected to the event, even though it wouldn't let me connect something to the event before I hit compile and before it gave me that error. But yeah, I see the finickiness. Okay. You ready? Compiling made it refresh. That makes sense. The cat is back. Hey.
We bind our cube to our event dispatcher inside our third person character. If you ever wanted to unbind it, what we could do
She says hi. She lays down. I'll turn that camera back on.
Event Begin Play, and I'm actually just going to move everything a bit up. And Event Begin Play, I'm going to have a sequence. So first, I'm going to bind this event dispatcher to my third person character. Then, after, let's say, a delay of 5 seconds, we can copy all of this again.
You want to talk on the mic here too, Kitty? Can I get a meow? You feeling silent right now? Yeah, maybe just go lay down. Hey. Okay. We were doing the delay, right? And then a print string, I think. Yeah. But unbound there. Oh, Kitty's back. There we go. Oh, snap. Yeah, it was getting really unresponsive with the video player. Something must have been going wrong there. Okay. Got all that. Yep. Okay. just stops working after that. Okay, I think that was it there. File, save, save. Yep, and then now it don't work no more. Just as intended.
Hello. Net.
Cool. All right. So I think I am going to call it there for tonight. Going to be honest, my brain is starting to absorb the information a little less and less as we go on. It's the unfortunate part of doing these after a day's work is that usually my brain's a little bit worn out already. But that's why I like to review the stuff that I do here as well the next day so that I can kind of understand it a bit better. I do appreciate you hanging out here, Bacon Guy. Feel free to come on back. I stream Learning Unreal every Tuesday at the same time. It's 5 p.m. Pacific time. So if you want to hit follow, feel free. You'll get a notification when I do actually come back and stream again. Oh, perfect. Thank you. I see you there. And yeah, I'd love for you to come hang out again next time. Sometimes I'll do a random unscheduled stream outside of that, maybe like playing a game. Like yesterday, I had the day off. So I just played a little bit of Subnautica yesterday as well, because that's something I'm wanting to get through. I never actually got through that. I've played the first like hour or two multiple times and quit because it's just terrifying. But I thought maybe doing it on stream would be a more fun way to complete that game. But those game streams are unscheduled typically, but scheduled is every Tuesday, 5 p.m. Pacific. I am here learning Unreal Engine. So yeah, man, you take care. Thanks for hanging out. And anyone that watches in the future, hello, future people. And yeah, everyone take care of themselves. Take care of yourself. And hope to see you back next time. Thanks. Bye.